Lacey, are you ready?
Yep.
Good morning, everyone. Today is Wednesday, May 5th. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Pershing County Board of Commissioners. Call this meeting to order. Our first item of the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have approval of minutes for April 7th and April 21st. What's that?
I only set the April 7th.
Okay,
I'll make the motion to approve the April 7th.
And I'll second that motion.
we have a motion and a second for approval. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passed. Public input. No action may be taken on a matter raised under this item of the agenda until the matter itself has been specifically included on an agenda as an item upon which action will be taken. Public commentary will generally be limited to 3 minutes per person. Any public comments in the room? Oh, go ahead.
I just want to speak out as a citizen. I see you guys have some proposals for the cemeteries. Closing the cemeteries on weekends is not gonna work for me. You know, we don't take care of our plots like we should, but when we do, it's on the weekend. We work during the week. I believe a lot of other people do too. I think we need to find some compromise there. In addition, you know, I was thinking about it this morning, even after 5 o'clock, people probably want to go up there, maybe in the summertime with school, you know, after work possibly. So I don't know, you guys need to think long and hard before shut blocking that thing down. All of it want to say it's very sad that we would have to consider that as a bad thing for the cemetery, that stuff. About as low as you can go, when you just want to put that out there.
Yeah, thank you. You had a comment?
I don't know why this is public comments or not, but I don't think
This is Mark Sharp, Mr. Mark Sharp.
I've had 4 or 5 sales on that property. And every time that I come up with something that is squashed by the county, because they keep telling me I can't live on that piece of property. And it is a commercial piece of property. Water rights here. They got a write-off later this afternoon that the water rights for 2 homes there and a business. That's 10-inch commercial well. There's 50 gallons a minute, 24 hours a day, 7 days, 365 days. Under foot cubic acre of water per year. I've had probably 7 or 8 police reports of theft. I've had probably $20,000-$30,000 worth of copper brass. But I've been working and processing in the past before I went to prison. Let's get that out front. And there's no way that a person can have any kind of a business there with all the traffic going up down the freeway. We all realize 85-90% of us are good, decent people. But we have some that aren't. And that's major exposure to the freeway. And if there's no way I can run a business down there again with the theft that I've experienced in the past. And the district attorney and the county planning board tells me I gotta do a big change on the plan and all that. I'm not wanting to do no big change. I just need a little bit small area. For me to be able to live, for somebody to be able to live in that. I have a couple out of California, and he builds, buys brand spanking new vans, brand spanking new trailers, and he makes it totally self-sufficient, so you can live in the desert anywhere you want. doing business in California, he started the taxes. He started all the nonsense. His wife was a full-blown nurse. She would be a good add to your hospital here in town. He would be a good add to your tax base, because he's taking a vehicle, he's paying $6,000 for the strip. You know, they're making much in it. And then he puts living quarters inside. And it's all self-contained with water all over it, solar power and all kinds of stuff. He sells it for like $8,000. So and the county could run him off. Man, his wife met with me 3 or 4 times, went to the property, walked all over it. And when I first got out of prison, I had a guy out of California, he had a logging company that went broke. He wanted to stack his equipment down there, put more sales signs on it, everything was 90-mile vehicles. And he wanted to pull a travel trailer on there and set up, there's 3 septic tanks there. One for the business, one for each one of the trailer. You know, and I'm not asking for a bunch. I just want for big, small barrels. There's 3 of you that vote on me to it. You know, and I really like to turn that piece of property and go to Oregon, and get out for the county. I have been a nest to y'all.
Thank you for your comments. Justin, do you have anything on Zoom as far as public input? Nobody? Okay. Review of all agenda items to determine if any do or do not impose a direct and significant economic burden on a business or directly restrict the formation, operation, or expansion of a business. See anything?
I'll make a motion that there is nothing that falls under this category. I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passed. We have an 8:40. We're 3 minutes off. Do you need to get set up for anything?
One thing Mr. Sharp of West Coast Salmon is setting up. So Mr. Sharp, the commission received your public comments. They can't have a discussion and they can't deliberate about the information that you shared with them because it's not on the agenda. The open meeting law prevents the commissioners from discussing and deliberating towards a decision of anything that's not agendized, all right? So they've received the information and then later on, perhaps it could be put on an agenda. As I've told you before, this has to be done by the planning commission first, and then it could be approved or rejected by the board of county commissioners, depending on what the planning commission says. And as far as the variance goes, we can talk about that at some other time, all right? Like I said, it's not on the agenda, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, I just wanted to plant the seed.
Sure, okay.
So you
I
weren't
just
being,
want to make sure that you understand why they couldn't comment. on
yeah,
it.
you weren't being ignored. It's just,
It would be nice to get some kind of input that if it's possible or impossible. So I can make decisions.
okay, we have an 8:40 timed events, West Coast Salmon presentation. Presentation by Ralph, is it Rung? Rung. Yeah. Project manager for West Coast Salmon to update the Board of Commissioners on the progress with their Atlantic salmon farm facility. What's happening this morning?
So we can get a presentation up there.
Okay. There we go.
First of all, good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners.
Good morning.
On behalf of myself and my colleagues at West Coast Salmon, we appreciate the opportunity to give you an update today on where we're at. But before I sort of dive into a brief presentation I've prepared for you, I'd like to acknowledge and thank all the people that in Pershing County that are helping us move this along. especially Miss Lesbian back there, who is very patient with all my phone calls and emails. The guys at the water districts, Ben Hodges and Ryan Collins and Rusty Keel have been very valuable to me in helping to understand the water rights and where we stand on everything. Mr. Evans in building and planning is working with us to get through an expedited permitting process. As we're going to be an awful, I think, a lot of drawings. And then of course, District Attorney Shields is helping us with roads and easements and everything like that. So there's lots of folks that are supporting the project, and we're very appreciative of that. So what I'd briefly like to do today is tell you a little bit about West Coast salmon, and then a little bit of background on aquaculture and why we're thinking about locating in Pershing County. Talk a little bit about water, which I know is a very important subject. Yep. And then our next steps and where we're at and what we foresee coming down the road. So I'd like to start this morning with a, how are we going to do the slide changes here? I'm ready. This is a quote from Dr. Stoll almost 4 years ago. And his point is that we can't continue to overfish the oceans, the lakes, and the streams and have sustainable fish wildlife. And so aquaculture, to a certain extent, is not kept up with the advances in farming and ranching and feeding almost 400 million people we've got in the United States now, and 8 billion people worldwide. But the recent advances in the technology have allowed us to somewhat divorce the raising of fish from surface waters, from oceans, rivers, and lakes. And that's what our project's about. Next slide, please. So West Coast Salmon, we're planning on designing and building a biosecure, what's called a recirculating aquaculture system, RAS facility. You said salmon fish farm earlier, which is probably a more accurate term for it, but we like to be a little bit fancier, call it a RAS facility. Why Nevada? And there's three major reasons. One is there's about 500,000 tons a year of Atlantic salmon that are flown into the US every year, primarily from Norway, Chile, the Faroe Islands, and British Columbia. And there's very little Atlantic salmon raised here in the US. Nevada has three major advantages for West Coast salmon. One is its access to the large West Coast market. We'll be able to distribute all the way from San Diego up to near Seattle, Las Vegas, and in the Salt Lake City area. And we can do that by truck without freezing the fish. So there's an advantage, there's distribution advantage, and also a freshness advantage to the consumer. The arid climate here allows us to, Atlantic salmon is a cold water fish. And so it allows us to lower our HVAC and electricity requirements. Electricity is our second largest cost item behind feed. And so and the power rates here in Nevada are pretty good. So it's an important advantage to us to be able to cool the tanks and cool the fish. And then the last reason is really the geology here. The water table is 100, 120 feet down. So that as we're excavating, we don't have to de-water. We're also able to partially bury tanks and pipes, which allow us then to lower our building costs, save on construction. We also get some thermal insulation from the ground. So there's a CapEx advantage to us to being able to partially bury the tanks and piping in the ground. Next slide. So the first line up there is a number that our Chief Technology Officer calculated for us, which I really kind of like. You know, it kind of gives you a sense for what we're talking about. Yeah. After all three phases, 60,000 tons of fish a year, minus what Bryce wants to fish out of the tank. So it's going to feed about 140 million meals of salmon per year. And that's a pretty staggering number. If you think we can take the water that's on the existing hay farm there and raise 140 million meals of salmon per year. And how do we do that? We have a system that allows us to very efficiently use groundwater. We filter, disinfect, and recirculate over 99.9% of the water we take out of the aquifer. We spread that water use over 52 weeks, so there's less impact on the water table. And then as we're going to talk about in a few minutes, we're actually moving to points of diversion further away from the Humboldt River, which we think is positive for the farming community here in Lovelock and Pershing County. I think another important thing is that the nutrient waste streams in a self-contained aquaculture facility, similar to what we're building, are able to be recovered and used. And so the sludge is very high in nitrogen, which is a complement to cow manure and other things that farmers use on the fields around here. So we can sell the waste streams, including the offal and the morts that we get out of the facility can be made into fish oils and things like that. So we can take every stream that's coming out of the facility besides the fish and actually make commercial and good use of it. And then, obviously as we've talked about before, we want to be good neighbors through our outreach programs and also contribute to the state and local economy through jobs and the taxes. So maybe a little bit about aquaculture. People have been farming fish for over 5,000 years, and this is the first written record that we've been able to find. It was written by a Chinese man in 473 BCE. And aquaculture started out as just growing fish in ponds. You can't do that at a large scale because of the waste and diseases that get into there. The early phases of aquaculture were raising the fish on, raising eggs on shore, taking them out to sea pens or raceways and the thing, you raise them to full size. Do that, but you don't recover the pollution in whatever area you're working in. There's still a lot of pollution problems. When fish are contained, they tend to get sea lice, diseases. You have predators break into the nets. Tuna think that it's a buffet when they see a sea pen. So, there's quite a bit of loss associated with that, plus the cost of moving the fish offshore, bringing them onshore, processing, and then flying them to the United States. So if you look at where aquaculture is going, this is just the market graph for Atlantic salmon. And you can see from the early 60s how quickly the market's grown, and we anticipate that market continuing to grow. The U.S., you can see the arrow there points to how much U.S. total aquaculture production there is, and that's of all species: trout, coho salmon, other species. And you can see it's almost nil for U.S. Atlantic salmon production. So there's a tremendous opportunity for West Coast salmon to grow in the market. We can grow out to full size and still be less than half the total market in the United States, which is growing quite rapidly. Then the next slide shows you. You can see how wild fish capture has leveled off as the fisheries have become overfished. And you can see how aquaculture is now over 50% of the fish production worldwide. And that gap's going to continue to grow over time. Next slide, please. So what does a RAS facility look like? And I'm not really wild about this diagram, but I'll try to explain it. So in the lower right-hand corner there, you can see the fish tank. The fish swim circularly in that, and they're fed through advanced feeding systems. I'll say a little bit about feed. It's actually specifically formulated by species and the eggs you have. A modern fish feed has over 50 different micronutrients in it for two things. One, to promote growth. And the second then is also to help keep the fish feces clumped together so that they are easier to separate out of the water. So coming out of the tank with the gravity, you can see going up there to the settler where we settle out the sludge, which is then recovered and goes to farms or other uses. Then the water goes to that left box over there, which is denitrification, where we take the nitrates out of the water, and then the water circulated up to the top of the page there to a filter where we strip out the ammonia and the CO2. Then it goes on to the right to what's OZD, which is where we ozonate it to disinfect the water. Then it goes into the oxygen system, the ODS, where it's reoxygenated and goes back into the fish tank. So that water loop is how we achieve that 99.9% water recycle. And people ask, why can't you recirculate 100%? And the answer is we really don't know that question. There are things that you can't detect. And so we want to be cautious in starting up. As we'll talk about in a few minutes, we want to continue to advance the technology. We know where our consumptive uses are and recover more and more water so we can tighten that system even more. Our design right now at 99.9% recovery is actually the tightest facility that's being designed in the world right now in terms of water recovery. And that's really a function of where we're at in the water availability here in northeastern Nevada. So then a little bit about where we're at. As I think you're well aware, the project property is the Cosgrave Farm off Cosgrave Road. We've purchased about a little over 2,000 acres. The water rights that come with that are about 1,326 acre feet of use. We're defined by our place of use, which is the south side of the road. We filed a change app to make that for the total side of the property in case we want to expand into operations on the north side of the road in the future. We have three permitted points of diversion. There's 2 wells, operating wells on the property. They're ag wells. There's 1 permitted and not drilled yet. And then the manner of use is irrigation. We filed the change apps in early April. They've been published in the paper now for the last 4 weeks. And so we're into the protest period in terms of changing the manner of use from irrigation to commercial. And then drilling the new well and moving the existing well further away from the river. There's also a monitoring well that we now have on the north side of the road, which is monitoring the water table and the water chemistry on a 24-hour, 365-day basis. We can begin to get a baseline. So once we start our operations, we can see any changes to that.
And that's on your property as well.
Yes, sir, it is. So the next slide shows just briefly, I've already mentioned our well strategy. We are going to move to what Blake Lambert calls the well number 1 up to well number 3, which is further up the slope to move further away from the river. We'll have to completely replace the wells because the agricultural wells aren't suitable for the production wells. So there'll be brand new wells going into that property there. As I just comment here, I've spent quite a bit of time with the guys at Pershing County Water District and everything like that, explain our project to them, and we think that at least there's a good understanding of what we're trying to do and how we're trying to be responsible for the water. Next slide, please. So this is the current layout of the facility, and as we're going through our geotech testing and our initial design, this is subject to change, but it's a little difficult to see on this drawing. But the kind of brown block there is the phase 1. And just to give you a sense, the production hall there, which has over 60 tanks in it, is a little over 1,200 feet long. And some of those tanks, the final grow-out tanks, are almost 80 feet in diameter and 25 feet deep. And so when all said and done, the blue and green are phase 2 and phase 3 respectively, both of which are almost half a mile long. And we'll have over 25 million gallons of water in the facility that will be put in there over a 2 to 3 year period. Once again, to recycle 99.9% of that. The small blocks you see behind the production halls there are the water treatment facility. The area up there in this diagrams with west is north there. You can see the railroad tracks, and I-80 there is to the bottom of the page. So if you're looking to Cosgrave Road there, you're going north. And that's an area where we consider to be sort of, I call the dirty area. We'll have diesel generators or backup oxygen supplies, maintenance workshops, and things like that. And the reason why I bring that up is because I think the major point on this slide is biosecurity. We know that there's 7 different vectors that pathogens can potentially enter the facility, and that's water, feed, people, air, rodents, a whole variety of things. When you've got almost 1 million fish in a facility, we don't want any pathogens entering the facility. And so it's an extremely biosecure area. For example, for an employee to go into the thing, they'll go through 2 disinfection stations, have to change clothes. For vehicles to come on the site, they actually go through a wheel wash. If they're going further back in the facility, they actually go through a shower. So for example, our feed trucks are dedicated, sanitized, disinfected trucks that come, bring the feed in, and everything like that. So everything's about fish health, protecting the health of the fish. So we take biosecurity very seriously, and with that will come site security also. And we've been working with District Attorney Shields on the security around the site and the road itself. The little blue areas you see at the very top, closest to the railroad, is our recharge mechanism to the aquifer. Any water that we can't use in a facility be recharged to the aquifer. We'll disinfect it to drinking water standards, recharge it to the aquifers through the rapid infiltration basins. Those have actually shifted now a little bit further north of where they're currently shown on this diagram. We actually filed our application with DEP last night for the ribs, and so we've started that process of working through that. So I think that's it for that. This next one's a little hard to see again, but I want to show you a little bit of flow diagram of what the facility actually looks like. So down there in the lower left-hand corner, you've got the aquifer where our production wells pump the water up. We take off a side stream for our potable water treatment for the facilities. And then we move into what's called the RAS building itself. The fish actually move with the gray area down the page there from the hatchery. So they're in the hatchery for a few months until they reach the stage where they've ready for first feeding. We put them into very small tanks, give them a first feeding where they stay for about 2 months. Then they move into what is called the smolt par phase, which are smaller tanks as they begin to grow. Then we move them into the large PSG hall where you've got the 60 big tanks. The growing cycle for a fish is about 22 months. So after about 22 months in those tanks, we move them into a finishing system where we starve them for 10 days to purge them before we actually process them. In the initial stages here in Pershing County, we'll just gut them, leave the head on. Refrigerated trucks will pick them up and move them to the distribution markets where the processing. Down the road, as we move into phase 2 and phase 3, we'll actually begin to head them and fillet them and move up the value chain. So we're capturing more money here and there. So the heavy red lines, you can see the light blue lines are the fresh water coming into the various parts of the RAS facility. The heavy red lines are the recycle lines. So you can see where we recycle water. To the right there is the DNS, or the denitrification system that I mentioned earlier. You can see the sludge comes off. We de-water it to recover the water there. And then that goes out to farmers or whatever other uses we're going to do that. Once we've treated the water and disinfected it, it goes into that treated water storage tank. Any water that we want to recharge the aquifer then is, goes out to the rib system and back to the aquifer. So in terms of how the DWR and the water people think, our consumptive uses are listed on the left-hand side there. We've had some minor operational losses. Of course, some water goes out with the fish and biomass. It's about 5% of the consumptive use. There's some evaporation in the RAS system itself. We use a little bit of water to process the fish, but almost 80–85% of the water, and it's covered up there by my picture, is actually an evaporative losses off the ribs themselves. So that's a pretty easy target for us to go after. So we think, over time we can reduce that amount of evaporative losses and recover even more water and use water more efficiently. So, our key message is very efficient use of water to raise an awful lot of salmon. And so that with that, the next slide is sort of a summary on where we are on that. We think the technology is evolving very rapidly, and over the next 10 years, we're going to be able to tighten systems even more and recover even more of the water that we're doing right now. So the last slide is just a little bit of where we're at. What we call our initial phase design. We're about actually a little bit more than 50% complete right now. We should be wrapping up by the end of this month, early June. As I mentioned earlier, our change apps for the water use have been submitted and published. We are monitoring the groundwater continuously through the monitoring well. And we have filed, as of last night, our recharge applications. So we expect to complete our design and permitting by the fourth quarter this year. We're working with James and his team to begin the permitting. We'll have an initial review of the design at the end of June, so we can have him up to speed on where we're at and get their comments early. We're looking at beginning early site planning and probably beginning excavation either late this year or early next year. We then build out in phases, the hatchery first, then the smolt facility, and then the PSG. Put the eggs in as soon as we can because that means revenue. And so we expect eggs to go in late sometime next year with our first harvest of salmon in 2024. A key activity for us is to continue to dialogue not only with the county, but all of our stakeholders. We're also working with Heidi to talk a little bit about what are some community projects we can work on and some things we can do. Obviously, we're very hopeful that we can get a local workforce. Our plan is to try to source as locally and hire as locally as we can. We'll probably begin hiring operations sometime early next year. I know most people want to kind of know where we're at in terms of employment. All I can say is we're still in design. I don't have any more firm numbers right now than what we put in, what you read in the newspaper already, 75 to probably 100 people for the first phase. And we'll further define that and be in a better position next time I come back to talk to you to do about that. Also, the final I'd like to say is, we're also working with Heidi and to begin to try to define what the economic benefit's going to be to Pershing County. We don't have numbers around that yet, but I can tell you it's going to be millions of dollars a year in terms of property taxes and sales taxes and things like that. Once again, we want to try to, have things delivered locally here so that, Pershing County's getting their fair share of the sales tax. With that, I think that's a brief update. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Once again, we thank you so much for the support from everybody in Pershing County, and we're excited about being here. And I guess
We're excited for you to be here.
the final thought I'd like to leave with you is that 3 to 5 years from now, our partnership, I think, is going to result in one of the world's largest, most technically advanced aquaculture facilities. And the aquaculture facility worldwide is a multi-billion-dollar business. And I can promise you that everybody in Europe, Asia, and North America is going to know where Pershing County, Nevada is.
I bet they are.
And there will be quite a bit of visitors coming to see the facility, both in terms of scientists and business and investors and things like that. So we're excited. Thank you for your time. Questions?
Humboldt River Water is meeting next Friday. I think you should probably get a hold of Jeff Fontaine and do a presentation on this.
Unfortunately, Shelley, you're probably gonna have to listen to the same presentation again because I'm already on the agenda.
Oh, okay.
Good job.
I haven't got my agenda yet, so.
No, Jeff and I have met several times now, very supportive of the project, and I am going to be addressing you next week. So, and I think James will be there too for Pershing County. So, yeah, thank you.
Good job. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Unclassified departments, road department.
Well, we've been busy as usual. Myself, been doing a lot of spraying, almost caught up, kind of. The next crop's coming, but we got a pretty good start this year. But anyhow, I had went and cleared the cemetery, a big metal cemetery that is. Well, I don't know, a couple months ago or whenever it was. Anyhow, I went up there and sprayed pre-emergent up there in that area that are disturbed, so we shouldn't have any weeds. If everything goes right, there should be nothing growing up there.
Thank
So
you very much.
hopefully that'll help. Also been spraying up in the Grass Valley area, and while I was up there, we had a big weed cleanup up there, again, our yearly weed cleanup. And so I went ahead and cleaned up the Grass Valley firehouse. There was tumbleweeds all around the fence and stuff, so I just took care of it. And then sprayed pre-emergent up there too, and then Sean's gonna wet that for me, so there shouldn't be no weeds around the firehouse up there. So
Yeah, good.
that'll be a good thing. Did quite a bit of cleaning up there, Jerry and our new guy, Robert. They cleaned. Katrina was a big mess around the. They have those little bus stops and the mailbox busters.
yeah.
Katrina and Youngberg, we cleaned all that up, so it looks pretty good. And then I sprayed pre-emergent, so hopefully we can start winning the weed war up there. It's a bad one up in that country. So anyhow, and also myself, we met with Chuck Kendricks. Bryce came out last Friday. We talked to Chuck. We're gonna get that road in the Coyote Creek. Hopefully, we're gonna start Monday. We're gonna help. Gonna end up helping Chuck move the fence. A couple of us are. Figured might as well to get that done. It's gonna be in the best interest of everyone. So we'll help them out there. No problem. Hopefully it should only take a couple days. And then we'll get the road punched in there, and that'll be a good thing for everyone. Our new guy seems to be working out very good. He's a goer. Jacob Pritchard.
He made it for 2 weeks.
Yeah, there you go. Anyhow, I got him working at the landfill. We got to get him his permit so we can get him driving, but he didn't have his birth certificate right So anyhow, he's all over that though. He's studied up, ready to go. So he's working at the landfill, and then I have him in the weed mower today up in the Coal Canyon. There's plenty of brush to mow. So that's a good thing. Jerry and Robert, we finished up in the Grass Valley area as far as blading. We're gonna move to Emily, but we ended up moving to Kyle Hot Springs Road. Hauling water, it's dry everywhere. So they'll finish that up, and then we're gonna start that Coyote Creek project Monday. They also burned the Unionville burn area. And all the weeds we cleaned up in Grass Valley, we burned that and then cleaned that area, the burn area up, hauled it off. They did Blake Callahan Road in Emily before we moved to Kyle. Galen has been out there, out east here, made it clear out to Limbo, did what we could there. We run out of moisture, but we hit the real bad spots, and then we're headed back this way. And the rest of the crew met him there. We're doing Ragged Top right now with water. Unfortunately, it got, we had hit it once earlier, but it's already beat out. So trying to make it last all summer. Hopefully it does. Pretty important road, very important for Sea Punch Ranch. So anyhow, to that end, Kevin and those guys, before they ended up over there, they finished where they were, bladed the road over Kennedy. French boy came out of Kyle Hot Springs, and then they're over there helping with Galen now on Ragged Top. So that's pretty good. All in all, it wasn't too bad. It's dry of a year it is. We made the most of it, but unfortunately, we didn't get across all our roads this winter like we usually do, but it's hard to fight Mother Nature, and we're shorthanded. So that's pretty much it. We're all in now. We're get that Coyote Creek project done, and then we'll be hauling gravel in this valley and Grass Valley, getting ready for mag chloride here soon. So.
Yeah. When's that start?
I'm thinking early June, early to mid-June. Got to get it done before July.
So not very far away.
No. That's pretty much what I have for roads. If you guys have any questions. Landfill, yeah, Mitch, they're getting ready to burn their big pile up there. And then also Mitch had told me that some of the fence had been damaged, and then he found another spot when they got robbed. They had cut the fence down. They've just been driving in and out of there. So Mitch put rock there where they can't get in now, we hope. But anyways, I'm getting a quote on fixing the landfill fence. There's a whole bunch of it down. I didn't know that. I walked the whole perimeter. They've stole T-posts, they've stole barbed wire. So I guess we're getting vandalized up there along with the cemetery. So we're gonna get that fixed and get that place secure again, I hope. That's pretty disheartening. But anyhow, we're all over that. I'm supposed to get a quote from Mr. Boyles.
You did speak to him?
Yeah, good. He came up and looked at it. But so far I haven't seen the quote, so I'm gonna have to give him a call, see what's going on.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much all I have. Oh, I didn't mention, we cleaned up burnt Unionville, cleaned both sites up again. So that's just routine maintenance, so nothing, nothing out of the ordinary.
Good job.
It's a lot.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Senior Center, Crystal is not here. She's in the kitchen. So update on a number of congregate homebound meals being served. They're still hanging in there at about 30 a day. Sometimes a little less, sometimes more, but at least it's still staying where it was. Request to change budget sheets to reflect the change from one part-time bus driver position back to two. Reen, you must know what's going on.
Yeah, she had requested to go back the way it was a couple of years ago, and so I had Chris rework the figures, and it actually is about $1,027 a year decrease in the budget.
We had, as you probably know, we had to close down the senior center, so we had no use for bus drivers. And So when we opened back up March 15th, we had one bus driver. Actually, last week, that bus driver left. But we're at the point where to go to out of town trips, we need 2 drivers. So that's the reason behind it. So I guess I need a motion to allow that.
I'll make that motion. And I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
motion passed. Maureen, I have a question for you. I was in there working, trying to do some reports yesterday, and the printer is still messed up. It won't scan and send an email or send a scanned document, so it's got issues. Is it better to just replace it, buy one, or is it better to do the lease type thing? I don't know. And you know, it's not a big printer, it just,
I don't know how much Sierra Office Concepts would charge, or Inland Business is their name, I don't know. We have to have them to a full, I have no idea what they would charge.
Yeah. So maybe worth at least asking and looking at.
So is it a printer or a copy machine?
It's a printer, copier, scanner, and fax, the whole ball of wax. And they use it on all of them. And Justin, you know, Justin's looked at it, you know, we're still having the same issue, the scan issue. For a while there, you'd scan it and the bottom of the pages would be all messed up. So we have to do something. I'll look into seeing whether it's better to replace it or with a lease or a buy. Unless somebody else has a better idea.
Do you,
Nobody, I mean, it's an HP printer. Nobody from HP comes in to work on printer.
no, but printers don't cost that much. How much do you?
So it's probably $400 maybe.
Yeah.
I'm guessing.
Rather than a.
How old is the,
How old is it?
how old is it?
I think it's only, Justin, you may know the answer to that, but I think it's only a couple years old. Yeah. But it's still the same thing, you know, there's nobody around to work on, just like a printer at your house, at least I guess you could take it in somewhere.
It would cost more to fix it
It
probably
probably would.
than to buy a new one.
Yeah.
But how many, do they make a lot of copies on it or just mainly printing and scanning?
Copy. Well, I'm not gonna say, if it were like the newsletter, then they go to Reen's office. to
Okay,
use it.
so probably just a regular printer, you know,
It doesn't have to be a big printer like we
Yeah.
have in Reen's or the one out here. It's just, we gotta do something. So I'll look into what we can do.
I think the budget at the senior center is in good shape,
So we
I
should-
wouldn't hesitate to go ahead, try to get one as soon as possible before the end of June.
Well, that's a good point. Okay, I'll work on that. So, thank you. Buildings and grounds. Morning.
Since our last meeting, my guys have spent some time over to museum, replaced a couple of the toilets. We did the concrete pad for the Smitty house.
Yeah, and I have to add, thank you. You did a great job over there on doing that pad.
Thank you.
Yep.
I've been also, we've been doing weeds and trying to get our lawns back up to order, getting all the water systems up. I've been talking to Stacy Barstow, Right Patch, on fixing their firehouse lighting situation and get the washer and dryer put in. I met with Oasis last week out there to redo their water for the washer and dryer, to relocate it to the outside of that hidden bay. Met with
Oasis, the HVAC guys. Those guys.
I mean, D&D, sorry. D&D. I have Oasis on my head. So anyhow, met with D&D out there
Oh, okay.
and looking at the simplest plan, and what's best for what they need is put the washer on in the bay side and the dryer will be next to it. Met with Bruce out there, Bruce Hudson yesterday, going over all the electrical issues and lighting issues that they have. We'll be trying to get that done as soon as possible. I've already got light fixtures for out there. Stacy said that she already had some budget monies to help pay for some of those lights, so I picked her up 8 lights to put in between the squad bay and the trucks and the classroom.
And it really needs those. You
Oh,
walk in
it
there,
is
you
terrible.
can't see without opening the door.
You can't see in there. It's really unsafe, and the electrical on there is way out of code. So I figure if they're gonna, might as well just get all this, they're gonna be there doing the dryer anyway. Might as well have them just get the whole building back the way it's supposed to be. And then we'll start working on the handrails and a few other little odds and ends stuff that they need out there. Then spraying the cemeteries, we had 3 trees go down last week out at Lone Mountain.
Along the driveway, right? Along the fence?
Yeah. So the guys went out there and it takes a lot of time to cut those up and haul the debris away, but there was 3 trees again, so. I'm thinking at some point we probably need to discuss just taking them out before they end up, just keep falling out and taking out a fence.
Are they dying or are they just blowing?
They're
up?
just old,
And they're
Russian.
shallow rooted.
I think they're all Russian oliver.
every one of them.
Yeah.
And this has been like an ongoing thing. Every year we lose quite a few, every good storm. If it's a decent storm, it knocks them over. But they're just really shallow. I mean, like this, and they just topple over, and sometimes they go across the road, sometimes they hit the fences or hit other trees, and it knocks it over too. What else we done? Really, that's doesn't sound like a lot, but we had a bunch of leaks out of both cemeteries. Probably between the 2 cemeteries, we probably had 100 different leaks in the water lines from the birds and chipmunks and people.
Yeah.
Running over our lines. It's kind of, it takes a lot of time to go through and getting all this stuff going, but that's kind of what we've been doing. We're gonna be doing some stuff out at the ball field. Probably the next couple of days, we got cameras going in for the rec board out there. To put out there so we can keep an eye on what's happening out at the ball fields. And that's kind of it.
Good job.
On the pool, haven't heard anything back from,
Well, we have a rec board meeting tomorrow night, so.
yeah, Terra Firma has not gotten in touch with me to tell me when they're gonna be out here. So I know when to drain the pool for them.
They were finishing up in Fallon, the last I heard they had to finish up. their- whatever
but they need to
project in
do,
Fallon.
Jasmine and I had a conversation, I think that's her name, about they need to give me at least a day or 2 notice, because it takes a few hours about 5 or 6 hours to drain that pool out. But to drain it the way that Sean wants from Terra Firma is not a thing we can do, because the water table now is below where we can monitor it. When Rusty came and looked at that little monitoring pipe outside of the pool, he was in mud. There was no water in that. And that thing's 13 feet deep. Yeah. So that's kind of where we're at.
I will have, usually it's Michael or Terry to talk to. So I will call Terry today and see if she can get answers or get them to call you.
Yeah. And other than that's kind of, like I said, it's kind of what we've been doing. Just trying to keep everything going.
Yeah.
Oh, and I've been planning for the Mancebo tree too. Still haven't got my exact location, but it's gonna go right out here somewhere by the Clamper Rock.
Oh,
Oh, yeah. Where it's out of the way of the sprinkler lines.
That's a,
A lot of those lines out there, you have no idea where they are.
we have zero idea where they're
Yeah, yeah.
at. There's that's the whole park. That's about anywhere I do things, we don't know where
Yeah,
stuff is at until we hit it.
till it breaks. Yeah.
So I'm hoping, that we get lucky and don't come across anything that, I just can't put it, there's a sewer line that runs from this building out to the street. I just gotta make sure I'm away from it.
But you know about where it's
Oh, I
at.
know exactly where that's at, because that was replaced since I've been here.
Okay.
Any questions, concerns?
No, good job. You guys are hanging on pretty good.
Yeah, still no applicants.
No applicants. That's amazing.
So I'm just glad that everybody's been patient with everything we're doing. We still have some stuff to do out at the deputy's house, switch out some of his exterior lights, but it's important, but I'm trying to get everything else here caught up first.
It's on the list.
It's on the list.
Yeah. Well, you're doing the best you can with what you have, son.
Yeah, I appreciate Heidi and Mr. Hudson for helping, trying to keep the senior center and the senior community center going. I've been trying to swing by there to see if there's any messages. Myron's been doing an exceptional job of trying to keep
Yeah.
things caught up and
Yeah.
getting the setups and keeping buildings open and closing.
I did order a phone system that can be remotely accessed, so hopefully it'll be in soon. And I now carry the calendar everywhere, so that way.
As long as we're all just
Yeah.
communicating with one another,
Yeah,
if we have it handled. Probably gonna try to just shampooing the carpets here, depending on when we get a few days of lag time in there. It's been just over a year now since they've been done.
will we have that wedding coming out?
Probably do it after that and probably after if the Festa.
The festa's been canceled.
Oh.
We'll talk. And then grad night is,
Well, I'll definitely wait after that. 'Cause it's
Yeah.
what happened a
Yeah.
couple years
That-
ago.
grad, for June 5th,
I was gonna say the fifth, something like that.
June 5th.
Yeah.
So we'll get together and, because I have to show you what's on the calendar for right now. That way you either plan until I throw something in there.
It's nothing new. People just have to be patient and understand
Yeah.
what we're doing. So
Exactly.
is that it?
Well, thank you.
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Next item is safety cemetery, established cemetery access. Yeah, we've already heard a little bit about this from 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, for all county cemeteries.
And Cheryl should be on. soon.
Yes, I'm on. Can you hear me?
Yes, very well. Thank you.
Okay. I emailed each of you just kind of like a brief summary of what the cemetery board had suggested as recommendations. What's happening at the cemeteries, especially Lone Mountain Cemetery, is that people are going up there, whether it's with trucks or four-wheelers, and just, having a heyday there. And a number of plots have been vandalized, damaged. The one, and I think I emailed you a picture of it also. And they're just driving right over the plots and the curbing. So this here particular plot, the curbing was busted up and the plot was sunk. We did order, a couple of signs to put up: keep off, do not enter. But I don't want to fill the cemetery with signage. Then we were putting up carcinites in bigger areas to try to keep people off, and they just ride over them. So it's really becoming a problem there. And I think because it's far out and there's so much property that they just feel they could go up there and do whatever they want. So the cemetery board had suggested closing the cemeteries from 8 to 5. And what I did was I did speak with other cemeteries in the office, in the area. Mountain View, the Truckee Cemetery, Churchill Cemetery, all of them close except for Churchill. They're open 24/7, but their cemetery it's lit up like daylight, but he said they still have vandalism there. The others are all open from 8 to 5 daily. And they also have walkthroughs. So during the off hours, if anybody would like to go up there, they could walk through. I would like to see the cemeteries closed, so that we could kind of control what's going on. And then we could actually see the times of days. Okay, is it during the day? Is it in the evening that this is all being, done? Just to control it a little more. We're doing a lot of work on the cemeteries and they're all looking really, really good. So I'd like to see that we kind of get this handled. I will take responsibility, the cemetery office will take responsibility of opening and closing the cemeteries, whether it's both of them or mainly Lone Mountain. So that is my wish list.
As we've heard from one individual already, 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, does not work.
Right, okay. And
Yeah.
I could totally understand that, especially because of weekends. A lot of people like to go out on weekends.
And well, not only that, but in the evenings,
Right,
thing it at night, I really can, just to keep some of our people out that shouldn't be there. Then we have the issue, and Cheryl and I have talked about this, of who's gonna open and close the gates. Not an insurmountable issue, but it is. But the idea of closing it on weekends is, that's just outlandish to me.
That would be usually when people would go visit and work, either, during, pretty much after hours,
Yeah.
after regular
And
business hours.
weekends.
And weekends. So,
And just a man gate doesn't cut it. There's a lot of people, older people, you go in through a man gate, you're gonna walk,
yeah.
half a mile to put flowers on a grave. I don't think so.
What's the big draw for vandalizing the cemetery?
That's a good question.
Is there a law? Did you say the big draw?
Yeah,
No.
a big draw to vandalize a
I
cemetery.
wish I knew the type of person.
Yeah, but what type of
I
person?
guess I
would do
don't
that?
want to know the type.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right, yeah. Or you probably do already know, but you don't know.
Could we like put a camera at the gate? And maybe see who's going in and out?
That would probably be vandalized too.
Probably.
Yeah, there's ways to put it high enough to where nobody would be able to get to it. And I'm sure that John could facilitate that.
And most of the
How-
problem is at Lone Mountain, correct? Or is
I
There's
think,
people driving over graves in Big Meadow as
Big
well.
Meadow too?
Yeah, Cheryl was talking. I wanted to know how often this occurs.
Cheryl, how often has this occurred? Can you hear me?
well, yeah, I can hear you now. It happens quite often. I'm up there at least 5 or 6 times a week at the cemeteries. Bruce is up there, Chick is up there. And each time I go up there, there's somebody that drove over a different plot to get to where they need to go, instead of staying on the main roads that are there. So it's an ongoing thing, and so what do we do with these people's plots that have been destroyed? Are we going to fix them? And I don't, I could understand the 7 days because I'm for that. And I understand that people want to go during the weekends. I don't understand the need to have it open 24/7, especially with the work that we're doing. We're really working hard to keep these cemeteries nice.
have you addressed or thought about, had input on opening and closing if we lock the gates? Who would do that?
Well, yes, we talked about it at the cemetery board meeting, and we would take responsibility for that between me and Glenn. opening and closing, and Dale if need be. So we're not asking, the buildings and grounds or anybody else to take that responsibility to do that. Just like with the other cemeteries in the area, their cemetery office deals with it and they take care of it. They don't hire somebody to do it other than whoever works within the cemetery office.
Well, what if we closed at sunset?
Sunset changes though,
Exactly.
but so why not
So-
like 8 to 6 or something like that? I mean, sunset can be 9 o'clock at night in the summertime.
Yeah.
Right,
because-
and I believe there's one that closes at dusk, so that could be maybe 7-ish or whatever.
And I know that most cemeteries, or most cemeteries where I visit, always close at sunset or dusk, because it's
I like
earlier
the
in the
sunset
evening and it's later in the summer when more people go out to place flowers or visit and stuff. Even, 8 o'clock. Because I don't think a
Can you
lot of
have
people
winter
visit after.
hours and summer
Yeah.
hours?
So during the winter, it's dark at
It's
5
done by
o'clock.
4:30.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then in the summer, how many people go out after 8 o'clock at night?
exactly.
And maybe even after 7, I don't know.
Well, it stays lighter and warmer longer, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think,
Unless somebody could come up with a different solution to try to get this under control. I know Jerry Allen suggested cameras. I don't know how that would work out there.
We don't have electric there.
No, correct.
I like your idea of the dusk to dawn type.
Mhm.
maybe that will be the best
Yeah.
solution currently.
And that would change with time of year.
Yeah,
Right,
No, we are not doing the set hour.
right.
Well, it shouldn't open before 8 o'clock in the morning though.
correct. Well, in the summertime, you probably want to open fairly early if they want to go out, because it gets hot during the day.
Yep.
And there's not a lot of shade out there because our trees keep blowing over.
So, what are you suggesting for open hours?
Dusk to dawn.
But dawn, somebody would have to be out there
To open it up?
5:36 in the morning.
Yeah.
I guess 7 would probably be better.
So we just have to work out who is going to be able to go open it in the morning. So maybe it's best not to set an hour. So we just have to work out that part. And then also on the second part of that, we're gonna do that. There's no need to go to the expense of putting in mandates.
No, there's
Exactly.
not.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
So,
Wait a
what are
minute,
you,
Sarah.
what are you thinking? Is like 7 in the morning, or you're saying dusk to dawn? Dawn could be at like 5 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah, you're right.
you
And
know?
probably 7, like you say, 7 in the morning is not a bad hour.
No,
Right,
Huh?
8 to 8.
8 to 8.
In the wintertime, nobody's gonna want to be out there at 8 o'clock. So, no, I wouldn't want to be, yeah. I'm, go ahead.
Cecil. Carl. The other guy's Cecil.
What we've had to do to protect ourselves from vandalism and trespassers is get game cameras, and they're only like $50. And that would give you a handle on who the type of individuals are that are destroying the cemetery.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm okay with 8 to 8 instead of dusk to dawn. It's about the same thing.
But, winter hours,
But
It
yeah,
would
in the
close
winter
earlier.
time,
And
9
I
to
think,
4:30.
yeah,
keep
but
the
I
gates
think it would,
up.
closing earlier in the winter hours would prevent vandalism too, if the gates closed. It's pretty much dark. So,
so why can't we do winter hours like 8 to 5?
yeah.
And then
Well,
during,
Or dusk to dawn on all of it, that makes it easier.
That's what I
And that,
think.
that's not set times that anybody has to be out there. It's just,
It's just dust to dawn.
dawn, it's not opening it opens by 7 and closes in the wintertime by 5. Summertime, it opens by 7 and closes 8, 9 o'clock. So it's up to, pretty much leaves it up to the cemetery board when the gates get locked and unlocked. Is that a better route to go with the dusk to dawn?
I think you should have set hours.
Set hours?
And I'm only saying that because the time the sun comes up and the time the sun goes down changes every single day by 1 or 2 minutes.
Well, and someone's gonna go out there like you
Right.
know, when it's not open and then
Right.
be mad.
Yeah.
And you know that's gonna happen.
What
Also,
about 8 to 8?
it's very arduous to get up at sunrise, dawn in the winter time. I don't think that's very fair to the cemetery board.
Yeah.
I think the suggestion 8 to 8, that's for summer hours, 8 to 8. That's a good standard hour, and then in winter, maybe 9 to 5.
Okay.
8 to 5. Ought to be based as close as possible on daylight savings times. That's when it would change those dates.
We need a motion?
What?
Do we need a motion on this?
Yes, we do. And I don't know if we've gotten past the dust to dawn, because that changes.
Well,
over time of
the
year.
set winter hours and summer hours.
so summer hours would be 8 to 8 and winter hours would be 9 to 5.
Mhm.
That's what we're talking about. Cheryl, would that work?
Sure. That'd be fine.
Okay, and then we'll look at the daylight savings time of when winter and when it starts and.
Okay,
Mhm.
And that doesn't mean where whoever is tagged to open that week, they have to be there right at 9 o'clock. They can be there at 8 o'clock, whenever they
Whenever
have
convenient.
time to go open the gates.
okay. And most of that will be my, my responsibility, which I'm fine with.
Well, I think some of us will take turns to help you out though.
Yeah.
So is that a motion?
Oh, okay, that was a motion.
I will second.
And your motion was what?
My motion is that during summer, the hours would be 8 to 8, winter would be 9 to 5. And we'll look at the daylight savings time as far as when summer starts and winter starts. We'll just work the best we can, is what we'll do.
So I'll second that.
So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then there's fencing. You want to talk about the fencing?
Right, and I didn't know if that was something that had to be decided by the commissioners, but that was also one of the things that we had discussed at the meeting about the fencing around cemetery plots. We don't get many of it done anymore, which is a good thing because the maintenance on them are difficult and they catch a lot of debris. And once again, none of the other cemeteries allow fencing any longer. But we don't have it anywhere in the policies and procedures that no fencing. They could do curbing, brickwork, anything within the guidelines. But I would like to see something in the policy and procedure that backs us up that there's no fencing permitted any longer.
I personally don't have an issue with fencing. I have a family plot out there that is fenced. I know several people that do. They work well for the purpose. On the other hand, the curbing, I think, works just as well. But
Okay, the other issue with the fencing is that Gordon Hausman, he does the opening and closing of our plots. He will not and cannot do a burial within a fenced area.
No, you have to take the fence, that area of the fence down first. That's understandable.
Right, so, and that would be up to the people, you know,
Yeah.
that own it. if
By all
that's
means.
the-
Yep.
So
there.
why don't they add no fencing to the policies?
I don't have a reason why you wouldn't. Somebody wants to put a fence up. I don't know. I mean, how many cemeteries do you see with a fence
Not a lot.
there? Not a lot. You're right.
Yeah,
But I would think that if the fencing's an issue, catching debris and stuff, that we just add it to the policy where there's no fencing, just curbing or brickwork or whatever.
In my instance, the fence helps because the wind blows the flowers off and the fence catches the flowers so you can put them back on again.
Chick also picks up the flowers, so I don't have a problem with eliminating future plot fencing, and I would make a motion to that effect.
And I will second that.
Have a motion and a second. You want to state your motion again?
My motion is that we eliminate all future plot fencing.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
I vote no. Motion carried. Library is
Okay.
Kathy.
all right.
Thank you,
Liz.
Cheryl.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you.
All right,
Is Kathy on? No. And I don't see any fire and ambulance. Anybody on, Justin? Sean, do you have anything to report for Grass Valley? We had a very good Chiefs meeting Friday night in Winnemucca. A lot was, I think, accomplished. Anyway, a good meeting. Sean, are you out there? Maybe not.
Larry, I might just mention that Sean requested 5 years of data regarding each of the different fire department expenses and
Right.
budgets. And also ambulance for 5 years, revenues and budgets and expenses. So I have forwarded all that to him. with
You-
an
Okay.
Explanation of what was what on my forms. So he was requesting that for the fire district.
Yeah, that's good. I have been working on what's going on with the billing issue. What we did find out, we finally did find a contract. The contract with that billing agency is not a county contract. It's between the billing agency and the fire department. So we still haven't gotten to the point where we know. I just say something's falling apart, not being, we know it's not being done, but anyway, I'm working on that and we'll see what happens. Community center.
Well.
Well, I guess that's you.
Things seem to be running a little bit smoother. With the ordering the remote access phone will help. I haven't learned how to access the community center's emails yet. I have to go see Justin, but Heidi gets them and I usually get CC'd on all the emails that Heidi receives, so we're holding it together by a thread.
Applications? Yep.
I have one. I just get an email yesterday from another possible. I told her that I would contact her this afternoon after the meeting. So hopefully we have 2 hours.
Woo-hoo.
Good.
Do we want to set a date for interviews? That's fine. Okay. I can hold it together that long with Heidi's help and building components. 1 o'clock on the. Yeah.
Good. Cooperative extension, nobody. Nobody on there, Justin? That means you're up, IT department.
So a lot of the work I've been doing has been for the upgrades to the network on the library. As of yesterday, the 2 public computers and the staff computers are now on fiber. Yesterday, John Joseph from J4 Systems, last couple of days, came down and helped me install wireless access points for the library and for the admin building. So all the hardware for the Wi-Fi in both those buildings is in place. So I'm just configuring it. So we'll be able to launch that soon. Later this month, during off hours, I'll have FCC combat here to finish out the wiring in this building, and then I'll be able to get the access points for this building mounted and joined and configured. So we'll have Wi-Fi in the 3 central facilities. Yeah, that's been the focus of my last couple of weeks.
Good. I mean, you're always busy.
Oh yeah,
Busy.
there's always lots of support requests in the intermediary.
Yeah.
Just this morning, because of the power bump, we had an issue with here and at the admin building where the internet wasn't coming back up, but
Yeah.
that seems to be solved.
I had that issue at home.
Yep. It kind of looks like it affected a lot of things. It went out at my house too.
Yeah, and then I did get a message later that, I didn't see it until later, but it was a planned outage for a short duration.
They're not really clear. They aren't really publicizing those planned outages really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's
it.
That's all I have.
Good job.
Unless you have questions for me.
I will come talk to you about that printer issue.
Right.
I
Okay.
have a question for you.
Absolutely.
In my CETA meeting Monday, the city has hooked up to Sky Fiber,
Sky Fiber, yeah.
and Heidi says it is amazingly fast.
So for the county, I do have a proposal from them for internet for the courthouse, the admin building, the sheriff's office, and the annex building. I just got a different proposal, so we have options that we can compare from NMIS. I'm waiting for one more from AT&T, and then I'm gonna pull all the information together and present it to the board. And then we also need to have, I would like to have a department head meeting about phones. Because one of the big drivers besides just day-to-day activities for new internet is going to be the phone system, which is going to be over the internet. That's what modern business phone systems are, is they're all voice over IP. So voice over the internet. So we have to have internet that can support that. I know Bryce isn't gonna want to have garbled calls while he's on an important phone call with clients. And that's exactly what you would have with the current internet situation.
So would you be able to bring proposals on May 19th, which is our next meeting?
I may not have the AT&T proposal because they've got a much longer process that they have to go to. They said it'll be tight. I'm hoping to have their information by the 17th. If I don't get their information, then I'll bring the two proposals that I have
Okay.
with the understanding that we have one more coming in.
And then as far as the department head meeting on phones, would you need to have that before the 19th,
Before July 1.
before July 1?
Because I want to make sure that with whatever phone system we go with, it covers all the needs that the different departments have.
And I know that Cheryl wanted to talk to department heads about safety
Okay.
and that sort of thing as well. And then I don't know about HR, if you have anything, you know, that for a department head meeting.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right, so we'll shoot for May 19th, at least with the two that you have, if not all three.
Yeah.
Economic development, Heidi was here, but has 10 minutes to. Public defender, we do have information given to it. His report. Public defender said everything is going relatively smoothly in Pershing County. The issue we're grappling with in the last month issues tend to revolve around issues outside of Pershing County. Timely completion evaluations at Lake Crossing in Washoe County and Department of Indigent Defense, continual moving of the goalposts. Excuse me. In terms of the information and work product they were requesting, we provide to them. Then we do have a report.
Larry, I might add that I got a call yesterday from the lady from the Indigent Defense, and they want an annual report for fiscal year 2020, which is going to have to come from 11 Judicial and working with Steve, because it's going to have to be an estimate of how many hours he put in during all that time.
Yeah.
And me allocating wages and benefits. And it was due May 1st.
Did you?
We're kind of under pressure, and I'm gonna have to. The judge and Kate were also carbon copied on the email, and it sounds like she's already the lady has talked to Steve. But I think it's kind of an urgent thing that we need to get moving on.
Yeah.
And I can't do my part until they can tell me how many hours he has spent on indigent defense. And that's from July 2019 to June 2020.
That's something that needs to be tracked by the public defender.
And that's my,
Yeah.
I'm afraid that he hasn't been tracked.
They've had this requirement in place for at least 3 years.
Seriously?
Yeah.
So I will,
Well, I might need you guys' support then. Let's see what I can do.
I will talk to him after the meeting today.
Code enforcement.
I got a call from the code enforcement officer this morning. She has a medical emergency with her kids, her baby goats. So she's not going to be here today with her
Okay.
apologies.
I do have, we've talked about one issue, the burning building. And now I have another one that looks like another abandoned RV along Upper Valley Road. So I'll talk to Fran. It looks like somebody towed it in there and left it. Lacy.
All I have is the two corrections to the backfill that I sent you. And these are both, they should be exempt with no taxes owed. I guess the check mark got missed, and these are wrong, so I'm just correcting that.
So I'll make a motion that we approve both of these tax roll corrections.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passed. Reen?
Well, I have it already noted in reports, and then I'll have a list at the 19th meeting. I've had some requests to change the tentative to final measures, so I will bring those lists with me.
We still got 5 minutes.
We have a set meeting date to approve the tax rate and budget. Oh, that's right.
Oh, that's right. So we have to set a meeting to approve the resolution setting Pershing County 2021, 2022 tax rate and budgetary transfers. for
And the
20
Department of Taxation certifies their tax rate on June 25th. So our meeting always has to be after
After
that.
that, okay.
So I was thinking either June 28th, 29th, or 30th. Probably the 28th or 29th would be best, and then we would certify our tax rates, and I would have any augmentations resolutions ready for that same meeting day.
And I get this to come up. I'm not supposed to be here. Yeah, I'm not here.
You're not here like on the 28th or,
No, I'm gone.
29th? Well, I mean, we can meet.
Yeah.
So,
28th would work best for me. It's a
Okay.
Monday.
and would you like maybe 8:30, 9 o'clock? What time?
That's fine.
So Reem, what time would you want?
8:30 is good.
Okay.
Thanks, Lacey, for taking care of me.
Is Lori on? No. Does Bryce Shields have any update?
The only department update I have is that the dean's office is going to be participating in the boat rehab program this summer. So we will have a new worker in my office who's paid by boat rehab. This worker is going to be student age, so I believe a junior or senior in high school. We'll be doing administrative tasks, answering phones, scanning files, putting together files, and maybe going to court, things like that. So we're looking forward to that. And Karen Westner presented us with the opportunity to do that. We're grateful to her for providing that. It should be a good experience. That's it.
Okay, good. James. Come on up. So we have planning and building department with a couple of different things, department written update report on current projects, and status of the master plan development.
End of month report.
I like to see these because I can see who's building what.
On this, you can see the gaming license and business licenses are attached. Then the very last page is the building permits. Mostly electrical this month for whatever reason.
Boy, it is, dude.
Yeah, it seemed like it was one right after the other for a while.
Still going that way.
Yep. We do have a planning meeting tonight for a single parcel map, and that's all that is on the agenda.
I'm assuming that first one on there, I see NV Energy is tied with the line expansion.
Yes, it is. They're doing the upgrade at the Oriana substation.
Oriana,
Yeah, and
so-
getting their electrical housing building set in place, and then they're gonna distribute from there.
Yeah. We have master plan development code revisions being prepared by Stantec Engineering. Set public meeting dates.
Actually, I've just gotten the contract from Stantec. I have a copy here that is ready for signature. I've sent it to Bryce for review, and gotten the okay for signature. So originally it had my name for signature, and then I had her change that to put the board chair's signature, so they can, you can sign the contract. And as soon as she gets the signed contract, I believe that we have a start date of May 10th, I think is what is in here. It'll be around that time after she receives the contract, but we'll be starting sometime this month.
Also doing the water into
Yes.
everything.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's everything in this contract is incorporated in what you guys agreed to in the proposal.
Okay.
So can you have this copy for signature, Bryce? And then- Yeah. Oh, this one's already signed? Oh, perfect. All right. Very good. Thank you. So as far as setting future dates, I don't know. I think we'll have to wait for her to see. I'm going to be on a call with her to find out what the process is going to look like, and when she might want to set some meeting dates. I would hope to have, or what I would like to have is have the meeting dates sometime during the day instead of at night. So it makes it a little bit more convenient for, well, one, meeting with you guys, you have your meeting during the day.
Right.
And I hope the planning commission would be amenable to having some of their meetings, if nothing else specifically for this, during the day. So.
After we hear from
Yeah, after I
Stantec.
heard from her, and a lot of hers, I assume, was probably going to be by Zoom. She might come out, but I think
She'll probably do Zoom.
yeah, she'll probably do Zoom unless she's requested to be in person. So
But some of the dates will be for the public, for their input, so shouldn't it be in the evening?
well, and unless you guys want to meet at 6:15 in the evening for the public as well.
Well, I think that the public needs to have access.
Of course,
You know,
of
so-
course, but I mean, and the reason I was thinking during the day is because in a county commission meeting, the public has an opportunity to
Yeah,
give public
it's the
input
same thing.
at your meetings too. So I don't see the difference if you set the meeting during the day, the public still has an opportunity to give public.
I
input.
agree. I don't think it has to be an evening meeting. Actually, in the past, we haven't had that many people come to evening meetings.
And I know the ones before the meetings have been pretty much during the day. So but that was one of the reasons I wanted to keep with that.
What do you think, Bryce?
I think that we're gonna have a series of meetings for this, and that they can be varied depending on the turnout, depending on the input. Just in my experience, it really, I haven't seen a significant difference in attendance, whether it's a or an afternoon meeting. guess it would just have to be, the meeting should be set so that they're convenient for everybody and time so that we generate as much public input as possible.
Yeah, and that's ultimately what we want.
Yeah. So we'll cross that one when we get to it.
Yeah, so as soon as I get
Yeah.
some stuff, I mean, we'll be back in touch, of course. And as, I don't have anything else on that unless you guys do.
I don't.
I don't. Thank you.
You're welcome. Good. Yeah, there is, and actually, I don't know, it's not a time event, but I can hang out for the other.
Oh, okay,
items on here.
we'll get to it pretty quick. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see, so we did Bryce Shields, Karen Stevens, no. Jerry Allen is at a Chiefs meeting at Lake Tahoe. He's not here. Updated progress on site location for law enforcement center, no report.
I have a question though. Are the,
Individuals who are.
yes, are they
occupying
out?
the windmill? No, they're not out. I had a conversation with Ms. Trillis on Monday evening. She's gonna come by and see me this afternoon. She was unfortunately very upset about the newspaper articles that came out that referred to her and Mr. Armour as squatters. So we'll talk about that. As I mentioned last time, the potential purchaser of the windmill property is a landlord himself. And he's been in a position to where he needs to pick some renters of his. And there's just not a lot of available housing right now in North Nevada. And so what he decided to do is work with his renters. That's the approach that this board has taken, and I commend the board for its compassion in dealing with Carmen and Mr. Armour. We'll continue to work with them and make sure that, no taxpayer dollars are being spent to subsidize somebody's housing unless I hear otherwise from the board. Right now, the water's being paid, the sewer's being paid, the electric's being paid. County's not going to be on the hook for those facilities.
Yeah.
But, I'll file what is necessary through the court process to make sure that they're removed in a timely manner if they don't elect to voluntarily do so.
Works for me.
Comments on that?
They were given till April 15th. And we're already into May. So, and then we have someone else who's interested in the building that needs to have a tour of the building, I believe.
Right, and as I mentioned last meeting, I talked to that individual and it's not important that they're there.
Right.
Okay.
So the next one up is board appointments, resignations. We have one resignation in here.
I'm not sure whether the directions are clear from the board on that or not. It's a firm direction that the board would like me to take.
I would like to see them.
I would like to see them out. I mean, they shouldn't be in there. That's just me. And I,
I've heard comments that really upset me. I think they've been giving long enough chance at this point in time. If we would let them stay there, they're going to continue to take advantage of the county and the county's goodwill.
Okay. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
and I agree. Wholeheartedly.
And you know where I stand. so. Okay, we have one board resignation, and that is from the museum board.
I'm Jenna Laird.
She is as you know, health issues in G County.
So I'll make a motion to accept your resignation and go forward with the advertisement of
I'll
the
second.
vacancy.
I guess we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried.
And we have a resignation on the Casita board.
Yes,
Is that a city appointment? No.
It's that would just.
it's a city.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. So do we need to make, no, okay, it's a city. Thank you.
Proclamation and awards. I know of none. None?
Sheila Perez.
Sheila Perez, 10 years.
And they weren't going to be here, so I'll put that in.
So we just need to recognize that she's been 10 years, which is awesome.
Yeah.
It's a long time.
Derby Field Airport, it says FAA grant status report. There was on the grant we've already approved, they did a revision. Didn't affect money. I have yet to find what they changed, but anyway, so that did happen. They did a revision to that grant. Yesterday, I was at the airport. I had an NDOT, the aviation division of NDOT, did their annual site inspection. They do it every year, and they'll send a report. He said within a week, so we'll see. Anyway, a report will be coming back on his inspection. So the next one is first reading of an ordinance amending chapter 15.04 of the Pershing County Code and adopting the 2018 International Building Code, 2018 International Residential Code to include the 2018 Uniform Plumbing Code, Uniform Mechanical Code, International Energy Conservation Code, 2017 National Electric Code, which is anyway, and then frost depth will be called out in 2018 Northern Nevada amendments. 2018 International Building Code and 2018 International IRC. Presidential Code, okay. Involve modifying the product. Come on up.
All right,
Welcome back.
all right, I'm here. Actually, Bryce has got, has the resolution, I just the first reading, but there are 12 counties around us that have adopted the 2018 code in its entirety to include the Northern Nevada amendments, and that's Humboldt, Delco, Churchill, Lyon. So all of the surrounding counties that are around us have already adopted this to include the major ones. I think there are only two that were on 12, us and Mineral, that I found that we're still on the 2012 code. So I think it's appropriate that we move forward with this first reading and upgrade. And I think it will also eliminate and alleviate a lot of the concerns that were brought up by the contractor.
Right.
Specifically with the frost depth and the soil stuff that is clearly called out in this 2018 Northern Nevada.
And it's called out, I know I saw it in here. For the 12 inch or the 24.
In the amendment, it gives specific direction as to soils testing, the reporting of that, and your foundations and frost protection. So essentially, our frost depth will go back to 24 inches. And if it's which calls out in this amendment, if you are building in expansive soils and other soils that are called out in this amendment, that they are required to report or provide a soil sample, unless a soil sample for the area is already readily available.
Right.
That for this code would be acceptable for use as that.
So if someone else had done a soil
Yes.
study, you would accept that?
Then this
Okay.
code would allow.
And we did talk about that.
Yeah.
Okay,
before.
so it doesn't change between the 24 and 36 anymore.
No, but in my conversation with Mark, would be, so this would put our footing depth back to 24 inches.
Okay.
With this understanding that it's on the contractor, that if they are building or penetrating through expansive soils, that they provide what's in the code. And is that okay, or?
Yeah, there would be no requirement for a 36-inch frost depth above 5,000 feet, because that's not what the 2018 code calls for. If the board wants to change that, then we can add that language. Like James said, it's about 9 years since the board passed anything amending these codes, and so it's probably high time that.
Yes, I agree.
So.
I agree, and I did ask my contractor husband about this, and I go, these are based on 2017, and he goes, they're updated usually every 3 years.
Yes.
So the board needs to try and update every 3 years.
The NECs is always a year behind
Mhm.
your current code. So you have 18 code, you have 17 NECs. They have a current 2020 code that's out, but it hasn't been vetted yet. So that is in the process, and the state themselves have just adopted 18, so it's probably going to be a bit before they move forward and adopt any update there. So
With
this puts us in line with
Everyone else.
everybody.
the contractors boards and everything else are going by this code now.
Yeah, and
Until they
for
change it.
for new construction, and I know West Coast Salmon, they have done a lot of their design for the 2012. So they will stay. You guys will stay on the 2012 since they started this process before we adopted. This is going forward.
Actually, we're looking at upgrading.
Are you? Oh, all right, perfect. And that's okay. All right, that works.
Need a motion to.
Well, you just have to do the first reading, so there's no second.
The one of you just needs to introduce.
Just it, yeah.
I will introduce the first reading of the ordinance amending chapter 15.04 in Pershing County Code, adopting the 2018 International Building Code, 2018 International Residential Code, to include the 2018 Uniform Plumbing Code, Uniform Mechanical Code, International Energy Conservation Code, 2017 National Electric Code, frost depth will be called out, in the 2018 Northern Nevada amendments, and the 2018 IDC and 2018 IRC involve
It's just the first
modifying
reading. You just-
frost depth
you don't have to.
at elevations of 5,000 feet above or 24 inches below 5,000 feet.
We're not gonna have that part.
We're not gonna have that part. Strike that part. 24 inches total. Okay.
So I think you've pretty well read through that. So that's the first reading of the ordinance. How long before you have it?
So it just has to be advertised, and that advertisement has to occur within 10 days of the second reading. So
It'll probably be the first Monday or the first meeting in June.
right, and then after that, it's got to run for 2 weeks in a newspaper of general circulation, and then it becomes effective. So
Mid-June.
probably June 23rd, I bet it'll be effective.
God bless you.
Good, okay.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Thanks, James.
You betcha.
CARES funding.
We don't have any information yet on the
On the
recovery,
new-
on the new one.
Yeah.
Once we do, I think we need to really sit down and talk about the projects.
Right.
And things that we haven't been able to do.
So we have to,
And-
do.
And also, anything else that needs to be done.
Are the same limitations going to be tied to this one?
I don't believe so. I think we're gonna have, I think that we're gonna be able to do more with it. But again, the Treasury Department has not come out with
they
those
gotta come out
guidelines.
with that, yeah.
And there's, it does say in it now that you can do like water projects. So one of the things I was thinking of was the Emily water tower and stuff, but I don't know. But what we need to do is, once we have those guidelines, then whatever projects or things that we all want, we need to talk about it and then prioritize
Yeah.
them.
After we
And it's a
figure it out.
2-year
Cycle?
cycle, so we don't want to spend it all in the first year. And I
Yeah.
don't know what provisions.
Earlier, when we heard about the washer and dryer, they were for the Wright Patch Fire Department.
Yes.
They were paid for out of COVID funds.
Mhm.
What about the installation?
Well-
It should be in there too?
It what should have been if they had been on top of this,
Right,
but
the
now
money's-
it's closed
the money's
out.
already
It's
done,
all-
Yeah.
allocated,
Okay.
See,
and we can't make things
And we
up.
had those for a
Okay.
long time and.
Oh, I know, yeah.
I've been working with the auditor on.
Yeah, and we can't mess with that
Every
anymore.
report that was submitted, our general ledger has to match. it,
Gotcha,
and
okay.
It's been a nightmare.
I'm sorry.
Hopefully it won't be this second go round.
Hopefully won't be that way and all, yeah. So, but anyway,
Okay. Selection of voting alternate to participate on an intergovernmental executive committee. The Fallon Naval Air Force
So does that
Air
have
Base
to
expect.
be could that be Bryce, or does it have to be another commissioner?
According to the legislation, it's gotta be a commissioner. It's specifically designated the 3 counties who are affected by the NAS expansion. The representative on that board has to be a county commissioner. That's what the legislature
Uh-huh.
or the legislation calls for.
So the alternate has to also be a commissioner.
Right.
Well, I guess since Carol was on that phone call while I was gone, you can be the alternate.
I can, that's fine. If, unless Larry wants to do it.
Oh, I'm okay.
So
You want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to have Carol be the alternate on the voting alternate on the Intergovernmental Executive Committee for Valley Naval Air Station Extension.
And I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. Litigation meeting?
Yeah.
You're doing good time wise.
Yeah.
Okay, we're back in session. Any report from legal counsel?
Yeah, several weeks ago, the RTC, when the RTC was meeting, there was an issue that arose regarding maintenance of Western Avenue and the sidewalks along Western Avenue, whether those fell into the NDOT right of way. So I've done a little research, and I've confirmed this information with NDOT. The city of Lovelock owns the land, okay, that Western Avenue sits on. They actually have the right of way, but the right of way is maintained by NDOT. So the sidewalks and the curbs and the curb ramps are property of NDOT. And they're supposed to be maintaining it. I won't say they're property of NDOT, they're responsible for maintaining it. The Rehabilitation Act of 1979 and the American with Disabilities Act of 1990, Title II, apply to state and local governments, and require that all public facilities be accessible to those with disabilities. But that doesn't necessarily apply to existing facilities. So if the RTC would like to see the sidewalks upgraded, that is the responsibility of NDOT, but they don't have to do it under the ADA and RHA until there is a major alteration to that road, which would entail some type of resurfacing or major upgrade to the road that would affect its ability to use it. So that's a long answer. Okay, to answer the question, that NDOT is responsible for the sidewalks. But as to when NDOT actually does anything with the sidewalks, there has to be a major alteration to Western Avenue. And that would apply to all of the state routes in the city of Lovelock.
So Central Avenue, everything.
Correct. Now, there's actually an ADA inventory that was published. It's called the ADA Transition Plan that was published by NDOT in October of 2020. And you can go online and look at the ADA inventory. And it has every single public facility owned or operated or maintained by the state in different cities. And you can look on Lovelock and it has a bunch of little designations on the map that show non-ADA compliant public facilities. And it has that for each state route. So NDOT's aware of the issue and, they're just going down the list and making repairs, although they're not mandatory required by law to make those repairs, but they're voluntarily doing that to maintain the spirit of the American with Disabilities Act. And they're getting to it. But I will say that it doesn't look like any of the public facilities in Lovelock will be addressed soon or are on a very high priority. So, but now you know the answer to who maintains it, because NDOT had told the RTC that they weren't responsible for it.
Really?
That is not true. And their right-of-way director confirmed that they were responsible for it, and their ADA compliance director confirmed they were responsible.
So who's the NDOT supervisor out here?
I don't know who it is.
Is his name Ryan?
Last I knew, well, I
It
guess
was
Will
Will
Gardner.
Gardner.
Over the region.
Report from administrative assistant.
Everything's going fine. I have assisted with road department with the emissions report for the landfill. We're working on that, and then I have bill tracks that came in, and Lacey's office, Lacey gave me some information to respond to the one. So those will get submitted by Friday.
Good job. Items for future agendas.
We need to have an item on the agenda to approve the indigent defense plan that the county put together. That could probably be put on May 19th agenda. And I think, the sooner we get that to the Indigent Defense Commission, the sooner we'll know whether there are deficiencies in the plan that need to be worked out. It's actually due in September, but our plan's finished. So if we could get that to them, then we can start working on it. If you recall, last time Marcy Ryba, who's in charge of that state commission, was out here and gave a presentation on the plans. So that should be on the agenda.
So we can put that, can we get that on there? Okay. Nothing else? Correspondence? None. Board member reports.
I did mine on the community center, Pasita, other than the ordinance amending it. The board. Did we actually take care of this today?
We haven't had the final meeting.
I didn't get a public hearing date.
That's the only thing. They have, some of the members are basically wanting to pretty much not do any meetings over the summer unless there's something that needs to be done, because until this is approved and moved on with, because of the lack of quorums usually. So other than that,
So that was read last meeting and it's been published. Is that right, Lacey?
Now I need to get a date from Karen. I didn't get it.
Okay.
But flipped through, I apologize.
The only thing I would report is TV board as usual. It was a few days ago, I think it was Friday. I did spend almost 5 hours up there with Channel 5. They're trying to find a better signal. We did not find a better signal. We went through the equipment and they're back to the drawing board on trying to find a better signal. That's never ending. Okay, public input. No action may be taken on a matter raised under this item of the agenda until the matter itself has been specifically included on that agenda as an item upon which action will be taken. Public commentary will generally be limited to 3 minutes per person. Any public comments? Anybody on Zoom? We are in recess for approval of vouchers. You're right. come back out of recess for approval of vouchers.
I'll make a motion that we approve the vouchers.
I will second.
We have a motion and a second. One of those in there is for mine, but I won't vote for that. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
I,
Motion passed. And 1 o'clock. For help. This meeting is adjourned.
Bryce, I have a question. The gentleman that did the